Good morning, and welcome to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative with the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council Representative in the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It's a little cold. Mr. Floyd, how are you today?
So far, so good so far. But you told me that after November the 5th, I will not get all these emails.
Are you
They
still
haven't
getting
stopped.
emails?
They haven't stopped. So you told me, you promised me that they were going to stop.
I'm not getting. I told you I wasn't getting them anyway because they had deactivated me in the voter registry. However, I'm not seeing the commercials. My YouTube feed's a little bit different these days, so it's calmed down for me. I'm sorry you still got action over there.
They're asking for money and all this, but you told me that after November the 5th, it will calm down. But it
Who's
has.
asking you for money? Who's asking for money? Candidates or?
They still asking for money, saying that there's still votes out that has not been counted, and we want to make sure that we hold the front line and that we are, advocating for democracy. And but the thing about it, though, Chief, the $3 has gone up to $50.
Well, Mr. Floyd, I will say this. I think anybody who's giving money to a campaign after the fact is probably a little confused about how campaigning works.
I just wanted to let you know this morning that I'm a little disappointed in what you told me. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's what's
Well,
happening.
you come over to the unaffiliated side. Nobody's asking us for any money right now.
But we will though. We will because we need you all. Really
Yeah,
do.
but y'all don't send us well, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. But Mr. Floyd, do you have any announcements for our audience today?
Well, the Lee Warren has retired, and he would no longer be the registered deed. So, I want to say congratulations to him, and also the County Board of Commissioners held their last meeting Monday, and Tony Stewart, I believe it, Michael Booth, and Jimmy Keith would no longer serve. So, we want to say congratulations to them. And the new board member is going to be squared in. I think it's December the 2nd at 6:45 at the Crown, and I think they'll Kurt Leville, Patel, and Tyson. Uh, at, they have asked for a recount, so that's sort of in limbo. But they're
Hmm.
sworn in on the December the 2nd. So just like to see how will the new county board of commission shape up.
Yeah, and it seems that Peter Pappas is not of the mindset that this recount will change the election results. He just wants, because he's within that margin of error, he's within his rights to ask for that recount, and it seems like everybody's very amicable about it. Amicable. Nobody has any real concerns about him asking for that. So good for all of them.
Mhm.
What, if anything, special is done for departing county commissioners, Mr. Floyd?
I don't know. I'm sure they'll get some kind of accolades, and they gave some brief remarks.
Hmm.
At the meeting, we are waiting to see. I'm sure the first item, among the items that may be discussed on December the 2nd, will the election of a chairperson and
Hmm.
vice chair. And there's a lot of rumor mill discussion out there, for that. So we just wait to see what the outcome that will be.
Okay. And any other announcements before we move into our hot topics?
No, no, no,
Okay.
no.
So go ahead.
No, I'm still just upset with the emails you told me I wouldn't get, but everything's good.
Good deal. Well, the Fayetteville City Council had what was reported to seem like a spirited conversation about the bidding process. Mr. Floyd, and what was your take on that as they had that discussion?
Let me ask you to help our audience do one thing. From your experience as being on the council, how is the agenda established, and especially the consent portion of the agenda?
I can speak to how it was. When I was on the council, there was a weekly mayor pro tem meeting. And from my experience in attending some of those meetings, which, if anybody remembers, was a huge source of contention for the mayor, for me to be present at those meetings. which I didn't understand. But when I would go to those meetings, I recognized that the discussion of the council's agenda took place at those meetings. And the things, the items that were placed on consent seemed to be discussed by the mayor pro tem, then city attorney, and then city manager at the time when I was there.
Now, what is the consent agenda? What's the reason for the? So our audience, what is
Well,
the
the
reason
consent
for the?
agenda is simply the first items on the agenda that have pretty much already been discussed, tend to be considered low conflict items, and have already, there's some agreement that's already been made, and so they're placed on the consent agenda, and they are voted on at with the approval of the agenda. Well, you have the approval, and then the approval of the consent agenda. And the consent agenda is just several items that are batched together that the council will just take a quick vote on without any discussion, any additional discussion in that particular meeting to move that item forward.
But I hear you just say that the council, the council. The mayor pro tem, city manager, city attorney. But it seems like I thought you said that they sort of had a discussion prior to putting it under or on the consent agenda portion.
Typically, items that are on the consent agenda have been discussed. They've either been discussed in prior meetings, they've been discussed as an example, the first meeting of the month on council is a work session. And so it's either been discussed in the work session or in a prior meeting. And typically, the direction of the council has already been felt out, be that through individual phone calls or just in the passage of time of how, items move forward in general discussion. And so there's usually overwhelming support for an item that's already on the consent agenda. And again, it's usually a low conflict item. So it wouldn't be something, typically wouldn't be something that you would consider something that was a contentious item on a consent agenda.
Okay.
But I guess there are the occasions when items will be pulled because any member of council can pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion. Mr. Crisp was notorious for pulling an item from the consent agenda for discussion, and he wanted to make sure that that was done for the purposes of the outward facing audience so that they could be involved in the discussion and understand the rationale behind why a decision was made. I think that's what we saw even with the item with the bidding process. It was pulled from the consent agenda because there were certain members of council who felt like, based upon the issues that already were surrounding conversations about the bidding process, this was a topic that needed to be discussed for those members of the community who are tracking with this to be able to hear how the different members of council lined up with this discussion.
Well, it seemed like uh, it was just unique to place such an item on the consent agenda without having public discussion when the city had invested somewhere in the neighborhood of over $5.25 million, and they would rebid in some of the projects. It seems to me like that should not have been placed upon the consent agenda because the public, need to see the process itself and get an understanding of what happened to the contract. As an example, uh, who looked at the bonding? I mean, was the company really a legitimate bonding agency in the state of North Carolina? Just simply easy to fool. But anyway, the city is now suing the contractor for unfinished work. And how do you think that is going to go out? The bonding company and the contractor, I think they have the same address.
I believe I've heard that, and I think that the back to the consent agenda. I believe that often you will see bids on the consent agenda, the approval of bids on the consent agenda. I think it's a matter of housekeeping. I think often the things that you find on the consent agenda are considered matters of housekeeping. I will say I was glad that they pulled this for the reasons that are discussed because I think when we look at particularly like Lynn Green's comments about both she and Dino Hondros about putting the building before the site prep is completed, like kind of putting the cart before the horse. I agree with that statement. And it's nice to be able to go back and point to who makes sense on council and who is bringing up valid arguments and who's just kind of going along. Because as you understand the process, you begin to look and see who may not really have a handle on what this job should entail. And the reason that I specifically point out Ms. Green's comments, Councilwoman Green's comments, is because when we look on Rose Hill Road, we see the cart being put before the horse and the effect of that, because this contracting agency this agency that came in and did the work to install the sidewalks, their work is now torn up because the cart was put before the horse, because the sidewalks were installed. They've now been removed because a roundabout is going in. And so when you do work prematurely, you end up having to pay more because now we've had to pay to have them installed, we've had to pay to have them removed, and we're going to have to pay to have them installed again, all within the span of a year because somebody didn't understand the nature of how projects play out and what's required. And so I think that when you see council members be dismissive of comments like the ones that Lynn Green made, you certainly should take issue with whether or not those council members truly understand the impact of development, the order of development, and the cost of not getting it right the first time.
But Tish, just look at the tennis court. Do you know where the location of the tennis court?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen the site?
Yes.
The site itself, I mean, the location of it, to me, it looked like a slopey hill going back towards the city PWC or water pond, whatever you want to call it. And so one day I stopped and I just looked, and I saw this huge machine digging up dirt, put into a small truck to carry to the right and dump it. Now I'm talking about a small truck. I'm not talking about a large dump truck. And I said, how in the world is this going to work out, given the slope of the project and the build up that project would have? Why would you want to put it there? I mean, I understand it's close to the park, but if you look at the terrain, it, it requires a lot of build up.
And I think, like I said, I think it was wise of them to pull this from the consent agenda. It's unfortunate that it moved forward with them approving without really giving consideration to some of the questions that the members of council had. But that's the nature of government. If you are outvoted, then you just have to sit back and watch things play out. And you're usually vindicated in the long run, because when people rush to make decisions or when they move without considering the full impact of the weight of what their colleagues are saying, these things often come back to bite them in the behind. So I think if we just keep watching this, we're going to see that this probably there will probably be something that will be thrown up, and there will be some ribbon cuttings, but there will be some issues that we will see down the road that certainly will align to the concerns that the three council members were trying to get addressed that were kind of brushed aside.
I just see some new invoices added to the existing contract.
Absolutely. Haste always makes waste. And that's a very, when we were growing up, that was one of the sayings that that was really drilled into us. Haste makes waste. If you rush, you're going to waste. You're going to waste product. You're going to waste money. You're going to waste time. You're going to waste something. But haste always makes waste. Speaking of haste and waste, certainly there's no haste in redeveloping the Murchison Road corridor. So you were bringing up the fact that you made mention of the fact that the city missed the mark on the grant for the Murchison Road corridor. Talk a little bit about that for our audience.
Well, well, Tish, I just want to say that I've always said we're going to improve the Murchison Road car once we are able to receive grants. So be a little patient with the city. We're working on grants now. We're not taking the initiative to do economic development, to jumpstart economic development from the city standpoint of view, from the city funding. We're just saying that please, please be patient once we get these grants. So we missed it in the last two sessions. And so each session that we miss is puts up between 2 to 5 years behind. So I'm just asking the community to continue to meet with the future development of the Murchison Road corridor because, it will be developed during your grandson time. And how old is your grandson?
My grandson is soon to be 4.
Four. Okay.
Yeah,
So
he's
by the
soon to
time
be.
you get 18 years old and be a senior in college, we will see some improvement.
Well, alrighty then. So the Cumberland County has been spending some money, and there was a discussion about $15,000 that is to be invested at a cemetery to rebury or to repair some unearthed plots where you can actually see the caskets peeking out right now based upon the high volumes of water that have moved through that area with the storms that we've had over the last few years. Mr. Floyd, what's your take on that?
Well, this project, I mean, this has been going on for some time. If you travel 210 Murchison Road through Spring Lake, there's a culture site there, and it's between two colored cemetery. That's the way the deed reads. Between two colored cemetery. The state said that it's not their problem, and the Spring Lake said it's not their problem, but they did express to a church that it would require $325,000 to rectify the concern. If
Hmm.
you would think about it, Keith, if you have a nozzle on a water hose and you put it on jet, it's gonna go straight out.
Hmm.
But if you take the nozzle off the water hose, okay, and lay the water hose down, and the water going straight,
Hmm.
that means that it's eroding everything on the left and right hand side. So that's the problem. The state don't want to fix it. The state tell a church that it will require $325,000. So you gonna tell me that that's my property? I spend $335,000 to repair it, and you run the water through it.
Hmm.
But I can't do anything myself.
Hmm.
It's my property. You can use it to run the water.
Right.
But the unique thing about that, Tish, is that it happens more so in unique communities. The Dust Bowl that we talk about, the water off the Martin Luther King Freeway comes through Fay Block Company, and it has an adverse effect, you know, in the North Street Extension community where it floods. So
Hmm.
this is common practice that these things are done in 301 areas.
Okay.
So
So,
hopefully that Bethel will get somehow, and as Commissioner Adams mentioned, that they will provide $15,000 to relocate it. But unless there's some major construction, it is still going to erode because the water is coming through and it's eroding this, whatever you want to call it, the tops. That means the side.
and
Uh,
an historic location because this cemetery has been around for quite some time.
it's a colored cemetery now.
Hmm.
That's how it reads when you look at the deed. It's
Hmm.
specified that it's a colored cemetery.
Because there was a point in this nation's history where people had to be buried based upon the color of their skin.
Yes.
Yeah, and
So
that's an unfortunate reality. Now let's talk about you talk about you talk about the inconsistencies. This to me is a major inconsistency, Mr. Floyd. And it doesn't make any sense to me. So when I talk about this, hopefully procedurally, somebody can help make it make sense because it just doesn't make any sense to me. The school board is currently facing a discrimination lawsuit based upon a custodian's allegation that he was terminated because of his inability to be able to get CDLs to drive the bus. Many people are familiar with the fact that in Cumberland County, TAs, custodians, all of the people who are outside of the scope of teaching and administration are required to get their CDLs and be willing to drive a bus. Now, Mr. Floyd, let me say, first of all, I understand the necessity because they're short bus drivers, but it just seems like a foolish solution to me because if I apply for a job as a custodian, that doesn't mean I want to drive a bus. It means I want to maintain the grounds. I want to keep up the hygiene of the school. But this says if you're not willing to get this policy says if you're not willing or able to get your CDLs, you will be terminated from your job, which means then not only will you be short bus drivers, you're going to be short TAs, you're going to be short custodians. It seems like Cumberland County School is creating a bigger issue with this policy and has now opened themselves up to a lawsuit because this person said, hey, I've got glaucoma, I've got high blood pressure, I've got a litany of things that prevent me from being able to get my CDLs. First of all, why would you even want me driving a school bus? Secondly, if I'm physically incapable of being able to meet this requirement, is it discrimination if you terminate me?
Well, I think that's something to teach that is done statewide. But just like you just mentioned, driving is a skill. I mean, to get, there's certain kind of CDL license that's available. One, you have bus driver. I'm talking about track, whatever you call it, like Greyhound.
Right,
Okay, there's a CDL license for that. There's a CDL license for those person that has to drive tractor trailers.
right.
And CDL license for those individuals that drive non-commercial buses. But it requires a skill to, and it's something that you have to do on a regular basis. It's sort of hard for you to leave out of a classroom being a custodian and then jump in a school bus and carry 35 to 40 or 50 kids home. Not on a regular basis, but as a part-time basis. The better, the more you drive, the better your skill come into play. But just to take you off the custodian road and put you in a bus, I would have to think twice about that. So I'll just wait to see how the court's gonna play out on
And those are two completely different skill sets. Like, I am the person that you want in the classroom. I am the person that you want cleaning toilets and cleaning kitchens. I am not the person that you want driving a school bus.
it. Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, if you don't have the skill set,
You
I
should
mean,
not have to be do that job.
then again, you're gonna have a parent that's going to say because of the skill set, this person is not a regular bus driver. Yes, he has been trained, but he employed as a custodian. So how would that parent look when he or she decided that now it's a court action because the driver who is a custodian uh, ran the stoplight, did stop, turned wrong, not familiar with the route. It requires a skill. For instance, I went into I think it was King Grant, not King Grant. It was one on on Ramsey Street, and the bus driver went in, but that bus driver have to back. I guess they didn't go completely into the subdivision.
Hmm.
That bus driver was required to back and turn around.
Hmm.
So I said, well, let me give this bus driver the room to stop the bus and back the bus down a side street and then turn around to go back out. I had that patience and time. I didn't want to crowd the bus by saying, hey, you need to go forward, because that's the way that I'm going and that's the way we're supposed to go on this lane. So it requires a skill.
Absolutely. And I would also venture to say that if I were a parent who had a child in Cumberland County schools, or if you're saying it's statewide in North Carolina schools, who rode the school bus, I would sign my name to this lawsuit because I would have an issue with a policy that required a person that has one job to be forced to do another job or lose their job, because to me that is endangering the well-being of my child.
Well,
Because if I don't want to be driving this bus but I'm only doing it because I'm trying to keep my job, then I'm not the best person for this job. I want somebody driving the bus who wants to be driving the bus. And if we don't have enough bus drivers, we need to look at some alternative solutions.
well, the bus drivers. I think Commissioner Edmonds at that time he was there. He was trying to, and finally the bus drivers pay is beginning to increase across the state.
Mhm.
But they was really, really low on the totem pole. I think it was like $11 an hour
Right.
at that time. So you you're changing my. I understand what you're saying. You're changing my role and giving me a greater responsibility, with the same price.
Absolutely. And there was a time, Mr. Floyd, I didn't know this. I didn't ride the bus when I was in school. But I did not realize that there was a time in my generation where students drove the bus.
Yes.
I
Well,
didn't know that.
well. You are of a younger generation. See, you are. You have much more privilege than what we had when we were back then.
Now, my mother just look, my mother didn't like the schools that were in our district. And so we did what we had to do to make sure that I went to a school that was adequate in my mother's estimation. And so I couldn't ride the bus. It wasn't a matter of privilege. I mean, I guess to some degree maybe it was. And thank you, Father, for privilege. I'm not one to think people should not enjoy privilege. So
I'm just saying.
thank you, Father, for privilege.
I'm just saying. Many times, some of us, if you talk with some of us, will drove past a
Right,
14 zip code and carried to a 301 zip code.
right,
When I go back home and I look at some of the kids, how far they have to walk to get to school, to get an education. And I drove through that one day, Tish, and I said, my God, I had to be stupid to walk all the way across town to see this person. I walked through some unique neighborhoods now,
right.
and they had to walk to school every day.
Hmm.
So time has changed, and we they say now if you live more than a mile and a half, they provide transportation. So
Right.
you see how the court play out.
So let's talk about privilege, Mr. Floyd. Since we're on this privilege point,
Mhm.
campaign to elect Democrats didn't give three statewide candidates any money. So
Well,
apparently y'all have a process where y'all give money to the party, and then the party gives the money to the candidate that they want to give it to. Is that how these party coffers work?
well, Tish, I tell you, I think let me say to you in my uh, 2.5 decades as being affiliated with the Democrat
With the
Party,
party.
I was blessed to get less than $100 in 25 years.
So, Mr. Floyd, am I accurate in understanding? This is a legitimate question. So, when people give to the Democratic Party, they're not giving to the candidate of their choice. They're giving to the party, and then the party, and maybe even to the Republican Party as well. This is how this happens, and then the party determines who they want to give that money to.
Well, like I said, the Democrat Party has always given money to who they like, not whether or not you have an opportunity to win or if you are in a competitive district. For
Okay.
instance, for instance, there is a Democrat Party, which is the Democrat Party, and then you have just like the one you're talking about, who was a committee set up to help Republican and Democrat council or state members to run an election. Then you have like the House Democrat Party that would seek fundraising, and then you had the Senate
Okay.
Democrat Party that would seek. But the one that did not give individual, well, most of them, the one in this case, they went, they ran statewide election. meaning that that pot of money that was set up and was given to that pot was for to assist statewide candidates that's running for statewide office, meaning that they was council or state potential members if they get elected. Now, of that $40 million, I want you to understand now, $40 million that came in, it came into that party there, and it's the chief officers that oversee that, which is the governor. The governor then have a relationship with a individual, and that individual gave 39 $29 million to Josh Stein campaign, some money to I think it was Jackson campaign, and some money to Hunt campaign. What that person did now, please be reminded now, the governor endorsed and appointed Holmes, okay, appointed Holmes to the auditor position. And this gentleman did not give Holmes any money, but the Democrat Party did. So this person has, Keisha, if you look at this secession, has put itself in control of the Democrat Party fundraising effort for the next 16 years. Okay? Because Josh Stein from him got $29 million. So so if you're going to run in 4 years, Josh Stein will automatically have 20 plus $1 million or somewhere in that neighborhood. So he's going to run again. So if he run again and win, this same person got what, another 4 years. So after that, Josh Steins cannot run again. So that means that Miss Hunt can run. He gave her about $1.6 million. So that relationship rolled over to her. And she runs 2 years, that's 16 years. So he has positioned himself for 16 years in the Democrat Party. Now, I hate to say it, Chief, but of the three African Americans that were running, two didn't get any money from the Council of State. Now, they give it because an individual can only give up to $6,400. If you give it the way that they give it, but we channel down, you can give an unlimited amount. So, what I would like to see my party do is to have an off-site conference and meet with the governor and let the governor know that that portion of the fundraising effort got to change.
Or the people could just be wiser and give their money directly to the candidate of their choice.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
if you are watching this and you have been giving your dollars into a pool where they get to go and decide where your dollars go, you may want to ask yourself the question, is that how you want your money to be handled? Because I don't want to, I want to give my money to the candidate that I want to support. Now, if you are, that all Democrats are solid and you just want to support the Democrat Party, keep on doing what you're doing. But if you are like the vast majority of Americans who are waking up to the reality that the party system may not be exactly what you thought it was all these years, and that the political system most certainly isn't what you thought it was all these years, then you may want to have some autonomy over where your dollars go. And you also may want to exercise some control about which candidates you support. And in that case, just give directly to the candidate. Every candidate has a committee. Every candidate is required to have a committee that they set up. You can find those committees by visiting the Board of Elections website. You can reach out to the candidate. If listen, these candidates will gladly send you the information about their committee. I asked two candidates this year, send me your committee information. They sent it to me with no issue. Mr. Floyd, when I asked you, you sent it to me with no issue because the candidates want your money and they would much rather you give directly to them than go through these organizations where then they have to miss out. Because, like you just said, Mr. Floyd, people who gave it to these organizations may have thought they were supporting you over all of these elections, and you received $100 or less in all of the elections that you participated in from these organizations.
see, that's the thing. when I look at it, you look at it, he appointed Jessica Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
That was his appointee. And the person that was overseeing the money did not give her any money. You had Winston who ran, I think it was for Commissioner of Labor. He didn't get any money. Now they turned back around and gave Josh Stein, I think it was $7 or $9 million when he had Tish a double-digit lead.
And Sarah Tabor actually performed well in the election, but did not win. And her husband, Rob Tabor, is very active in the party. And so I wonder how this will affect his activity in the party, knowing that they did not support his wife.
Well, Tish, what you have to look at the history. You know, the the sitting chairman of the state Democrat Party is there, and the vice chair, second vice, or third vice, is there because of his effort,
Whose efforts?
Taven
Okay.
effort. And they somehow, this young lady with 26 years of experience became the chair of the Democrat Party. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Became the chair of the Democrat Party. They ousted a candidate that they wanted that had the experience to run the Democrat Party going into the president election. So do you understand what I mean, Tish?
So this was potentially retaliation because he was able to move forward something that they really didn't want. But I
Well,
think what
that's
people need to
his name
understand is,
attached. His name, his name attached. The attachment.
yeah, I
Okay.
think parties are stupid. I think the whole party system is just stupid. It just it creates so many issues that don't have to be issues. Run on your merit, stand on your policy, get your own money, go out here and campaign for yourself. This party system is just whack.
Well,
But speaking of party systems, we did see that Democrat Allison Riggs took the lead in the NC Supreme Court race. There's this is still under review.
as
Where do
it
you think this is going? It's not going to change the composition of the North Carolina Supreme Court. They're still going to be primarily Republican.
well, I remember one day I was on my way to Raleigh, and I received a phone call from Lionel Washington as it relates to Sherry Beasley, the recount, and she was responsible for getting, I think it was $10,000 to get counters to watch the tabulation process.
Hmm.
So there's going to be some money spent wherever it comes from to.
Also, that's why they're asking you guys for money still.
Well, that's one of the reasons. That's
Okay.
one of the reasons because I turned around and I
Well,
said,
that makes it that paints a different picture. So they're not asking you for campaign assistance. When there's a recount or a tabulation, the party wants to have their own people actually present to oversee that.
and they're not going to. No offense to you, they're not going to oversee it free.
How much? $10,000 is a lot of money. How many counters
Now,
are they?
now, this one I'm saying now. That's one of four. So you're talking about possibly $40,000 or $50,000 to pay these observers.
How many observers does $10,000 cover?
Now that was her responsibility. I think she had to get. I think it was $10,000 as a person in support of Beasley.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm
But it's
understanding what
four
you're saying.
person, so that's $40,000 plus to pay
Okay.
the person to exert the counters. Although they're Democrats now, they may be Republicans to watch the certification process. But
Okay.
and they're free teach. They want some money too. It's just like you pay poll workers who work at the poll. They not
I
poll workers.
didn't. I think I paid poll workers when I first started, and I was like, this is a waste of my money because the people that you pay be out there doing whatever they want to do. They are not your people. They are just employees, and they act like employees. And as soon as I told those people I'm not paying you anymore, they went and worked for my opponent. And so that lets you know that they have no loyalty and they are really not there for you. So I did not pay. I had my friends and my family.
But you have to understand about the poll workers. Now, the poll workers want at the local level. I know we're talking about the counters too. You know, they want $15 an hour.
Yeah, which is
Wow.
ridiculous.
I mean, so you multiply 15 times 13 and see how much they get a day. Somewhere in
Yeah.
the neighborhood about $165.
And
Now,
that still doesn't buy you loyalty because they're taking your $15 an hour and they're still handing out everybody else's stuff because they're
yeah,
just there to get their money. They don't care about who gets elected.
yeah. I mean, but that's how they make. That's how they make. You know, people have a unique way of knowing when who.
Yeah. Look, Mr. Floyd, I told you that year when I went out there and I helped you out that 1 year I went out there. So about I guess it's been two election cycles ago. And I'm standing out there and I'm talking to one of the people who's working for a candidate. They didn't even know how to say the candidate's name.
No, no, but teach. But the thing about it, they know how to make that money doing that 15.
Absolutely. That's their job. They wait for election cycle to come around. I can see two faces in my head right now that I don't know where else they work, but I know whenever election cycle rolls around, they are working for some of the top people. I can see three faces, as a matter of fact. They work for the top people. Whoever the people at the top are, that's who they're working for. And they do it, they are faithfully out there making their money, and they will talk. Listen, I remember one year they was out there working for somebody and that person did not want me to get elected and they still handed out my stuff. So you paid these people all this big money. I
Well,
didn't pay them nothing and they still handed out my stuff.
well, see, that's uniqueness about politics, and even with the three Democrats that didn't get any money, it doesn't matter, you know, because the Democrat Party, and especially the African American in the Democrat Party, is not going to have a come to Jesus meeting with Josh Stein nor Jackson. They are
Right.
going to do like your friend Archie McMillan say, teach. A lot of them just want to fit in, to sit in, but they talk about vouchers and about the money that is given to for vouchers, but they don't talk about money that is there for us. They don't talk about that.
Yeah, and I think as we see the crumble of the public school system as we know it, because I think it's eroding. The foundation is eroding. It's going to crumble, and as we see that, these vouchers are going to be more and more valuable, and you are going to see people clamoring to move their children from these public schools into private schools or into different learning settings. But
Well,
Mr. Go ahead.
what teach, just this week, the House and Senate overrode the governor veto and provide somewhere in the neighborhood of $473 million for those individuals who had applied for the grant, but the money ran out. Now this was come out of the rainy day fund, and at the same time, they provided now with the new $227 million to Western North Carolina. You see, but those persons with that voucher got 400 and plus. Now by 2030, it's going to be $800 million in there for the voucher program. So, my party is saying that they could put that money back into education. But what you have to look at, Tish, is 58 over 55% of every dollar in your pocket goes to education. 55 to 58% of every dollar. But you want to lock people up and put them in jail. Okay? So you got to look at the correction. You want to look at the overall operation of the state. Those state employees want to get their paycheck. All this is part of the budget. But now, what we look at when we lower corporate taxes, we attract new businesses, which bring in new revenue to communities other than Cumberland County and other communities get the economic development. We are trying to get some of these opportunities. And I just looked at Rocky Mount, my little hometown. Geez, they're gonna get an Amazon plant, facility, and they're gonna have 1,000 people. We can't, you know, we, it's just a shame of
Yeah.
how it is done.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Floyd, what you want to leave our people with?
Is to look at it and encourage your lawmakers to have a meeting with the incoming governor as it relates to Jackson and the disbursement of the Council of State funding. Is that a new method be done that all candidates receive some of that money that is set up for them, not that one person direct that money to who they want to. And my last thing, teacher, look at it. If the governor appointed that person to that position, my God, she should have got something. Something if it wasn't but $1,100. So talk with your governor. Just don't go up there to Raleigh just to sit in and see how your constituents and how minorities are being chunked over.
Yeah. And I will leave you with, y'all know I try to leave y'all with something just for your spirit's sake. So I will leave you with the fact that I was looking at Genesis this morning, and in the book of Genesis, it talked about how after the Lord destroyed the earth with water, he made a covenant with Noah, and he basically recognized that even though he knew that there was nothing good in the hearts of men, he still promised to never wipe them all out again based on his love for us. And so he gave a new path for reconciliation, but he also gave a promise, and he also gave some game. And the game was that we need to all understand that the hearts of men are deceitful. And so even when we look at governance and we look at how people are doing the things that they're doing, we should not be surprised when things don't make sense, because the heart of man is deceitful. But I'll tell y'all, there's one who reconciles us and who really helps us to get ourselves together, and that is his son Jesus. And so I just want to encourage everybody to just really dig into a relationship with him, because this world will be a better place if we all learn how to serve our Father's will. That's really all I have to say. And Mr. Floyd, I want to say I'm glad that we're through the election cycle. I'm glad that I'm not affiliated with a party, because I don't want nobody asking me for money for a recount. And
Well,
now, go ahead, Floyd.
well, teach, and also the scripture say somewhere in that book it say, please use common sense.
Well, common ain't common anymore. I'm gonna have to come across that scripture, but common ain't really common anymore. But I'll tell everybody, y'all have a wonderful day. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow, and comment. Tell us what you're thinking about what we're talking about. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and we're gonna do our best to be here for you. Not next week. That's what I meant to say. Next week is Thanksgiving. We are going to be taking the week off. We're going to be eating. Mr. Floyd. Every year he says he made a Cornish hen.
Now I'm inviting all to participate. I'm cooking a Cornish hen, and don't get that confused with eight.
A Cornish hen. I'm not inviting y'all to come to my house to eat, because I don't want to break bread with some of y'all. That wouldn't be good fellowship. But Mr. Floyd, y'all are welcome. You and your household, y'all are welcome.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm gonna have another Cornish hen. But you all have a very happy Thanksgiving. Remember to give thanks on Thanksgiving. And if you don't have any money this year, let me tell you something. I saw a lady, she took $20 over to the dollar store and made a Thanksgiving meal that fed a family of 5. I'm going to find that YouTube link and I'm going to post it on our page, because even though it wasn't the grandeur of what people expect for Thanksgiving, it was a good meal at an affordable price. And it's somebody who needs to have that information. So you give thanks and do what you can, and don't measure yourself up against what you think everybody else is doing. Mr. Floyd, you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I'll talk to you. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say this to you. Keisha. You know, our parents back when I was growing up know how to take nothing and make something.
Make it
Have
something.
you ever had chicken feet and rice?
No.
Have you seen
but
put
but I've had chicken and rice. I've seen people take a piece of chicken and a pot of rice and make it a whole meal.
all right now a chicken foot do not have any meat on it, but once they throw it in that rice and they do all the ingredients, you think that you got a pot of
Baby, steak and potatoes, yes.
so have a good holiday, Keisha.
You too, sir. Y'all, and I love y'all. Y'all enjoy your holiday, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Floyd, it didn't automatically go to YouTube, so I'm getting ready to pull it from here and post it. So it